So thank you for the invitation. So today I will want to speak about the following question. So given a group, I will call it P. P is because I will think at the end I will explain something about fundamental group of free manifold. Then what can you say about P from its finite quotient? So it means you have your group, you look to its finite quotient, and you want to know what properties you can detect from this finite quotient. So first, your group must have some finite quotient. So in this talk, P will be finitely generated, and you will see why. I will explain why I will put this hypothesis, and residually finite. I just recall the definition. So you look the intersection of all the K, which are the finite index subgroup, and K is a subgroup of pi, and you want this to be trivial. In another way, you can detect if an element is non-trivial by looking to its image in the finite quotient. So that will mean, in some sense, that if gamma in pi is non-trivial, there exists a finite quotient, so there exists a subgroup of finite index. And here I can take it normal, even. This condition I could have take normal subgroup. That's the same, such that if I look the map from pi to this quotient, then gamma does go to gamma bar, which is non-trivial. So it survives in some finite quotient. Okay, so just to give you a flavor of some properties that you can detect from finite quotient, here is a claim, easy claim, that pi is abelian if only if its finite quotient are abelian. So remember that here you don't need finitely generated, but you need residually finite. And you can see it, it's clear that if it's abelian, the finite quotient are abelian. But conversely, you take this element in pi, then if all the finite quotient are abelian, it will die in all the finite quotient. So if it's residually finite, it must be trivial. So that's a property. So that's a property you can detect on the profinite completion in some sense. So just, okay, on the finite quotient. So looking to the finite quotient, as I say, it's the same as looking to the finite index normal subgroup. And all these finite quotients are encoded in what is called the profinite completion. So let's define the profinite completion of a group. So you can make the definition for any group. They have no need to be finitely generated or residually finite. So you look to, I will take perhaps my notation. So I look to all the subgroups which are, so I look to the set of subgroups which are normal in pi and with finite index. And you can equip pi over k, which is the finite quotient, with the discrete topology. And then you take the set, the product of this pi over k, running over all this finite normal subgroup. And this will be a compact set. You put the product topology. And then you have a map from pi to this set. So the product over k of this pi over k, which if you take an element, you send it to the coset. Okay. And so then what will be the profinite completion? It will be the profinite completion is just the image, and you take the closure in this space. And that is called. So that's a way to define the profinite completion. And you can see that if your group is residually finite, this will be an injective morphism. So this is a morphism. So if P is residually finite, so the kernel of P into the profinite completion is trivial. And this is if and only if. So
you can also say explicitly what the closure is. It's like the people in the direct product, such as the projections are compatible.
Yeah, also, yeah. So I will give an example. Yeah. When you look these elements, you need a compatible for the projection, because when you have a subgroup of K, then you have a map from pi 1. So in some sense, if you have K, which is K prime, which is in K, which is in P, then you have a map from okay, and here you need the compatible condition. So in some sense, if it's not residually finite, you just make the quotient by this kernel. So I will always assume that it's residually finite to have this injection here. So you have to be careful. So one question is, for example, if two groups which are residually finite have the same profinite completion, are they the same? Are they isomorphic? It's not clear, because the isomorphism between the profinite completion has no reason to send pi to the other group. And
it has no reason to send
pi is what I can say. Pi, the closure of pi is this group, okay? But when you take an isomorphism between two profinite completion, continuous isomorphism, because you have a topology, we will come back to that, there is no reason that it sends you a dense subset to another dense subset. So the question of it's open. So there is another way more algebraic way to define the profinite completion, and which appeared in many instances. So you have this collection, say, NP, which is a collection of this normal subgroup. And it is a directed set. That is, you can say that K prime is bigger than K if K prime is a subgroup of K. Okay? And then you get an homomorphism, K prime K, which go from pi over K prime onto pi over K. And so you can define the profinite completion as the inverse limit of this set of finite groups. That's another way, more algebraic, to define the profinite completion, and which appear in some instances. So the first example is what is the profinite completion of Z. So just write to take my notation. So I don't know if I have. Okay, so I will do it by. So the profinite completion of Z, this will be the product for any prime P of the p-adic integer. Okay. And then the p-adic integers you can see as the limit of Z over P to the power P to the n Z. Okay. And for n in n. Okay, so that's so it means that this is complicated compared to Z in some sense. And also you can it happens so you have a topology on this one, or you have even a topology on ZP. Ah no, so this is hola. ZP is not Z. ZP is the limit of this. And you can show that the p-adic topology coincides with this profinite topology. You can do the exercise. And you can, if you look like that, you can see that an element here is a sequence of integer which have to have compatibility condition mod p to the n. So another instance where profinite group appears is when you look to Galois theory. If you take a field, if you take, I will take a field F and a subfield, which is the degree is infinite, then you can look to the Galois group of this extension. That's the automorphism of F, which are trivial on K. And this is, in fact, the inverse limit of the Galois group of the extension F, I will say L, where you have, we want F, which contains L, which contains K, and the extension FL is finite. That's a way where an example, classical example, where profinite group appear. Another, even where the profinite completion appear, is the case of fundamental group of algebraic surface. you have the étal fundamental group, or we call it also the fundamental group for the algebraic fundamental group of a surface. And then, if you look your algebraic surface and you look the underlying space, then the algebraic fundamental group is the profinite completion of the P, of the fundamental group of the surface. So this profinite group appear in many instances. So here we will look only to the discrete case, and so say something about the topology. So this is a compact topological group, and it's also totally discontinuous. So it's totally a discontinuous group, and so a subgroup U in P is open if and only if it is closed, which is clear, then if topological group open subgroup is closed, and of finite index. And a subgroup H in is closed if and only if it is the intersection of all the open subgroup containing H. So you see that here the condition to be open, you have a topological condition to be closed. Okay? And so, when you have this profinite group, when you speak about isomorphism, you have to say continuous isomorphism. And they have to be continuous. But now here is a very deep theorem of so N. Nikolov and Dan Segal, which has been proved in 2007, which says that for a finitely generated group, you can forget about this condition. So if P is finitely generated, any finite subgroup of finite index in the profinite completion is open.
Any subgroup, finite, I mean, there's finite.
Any subgroup of finite index. Too many finiteness.
I have a question. The second equivalence, is it easy or there's one way?
The second equivalence,
You need to use something here.
no, let's suddenly, the second equivalence, if it's, let's see, no. I have to think about it. I don't remember the argument at the moment. No, it's not difficult. I guess it's just come from the definition of the topology. That if you why it has to be the intersection. It's just looking the, let's see. It's looking the projection to the finite quotient. And then it has to be, okay, I have to remember. It's I cannot, just on the nose, I will think during the talk, if I can. So what this theorem tells you is that in some sense, if you have an isomorphism or even an homomorphism between two profinite completion where the groups are finitely generated, then it will be continuous. You know, if you have an isomorphism, then you will send open subgroup to open subgroup. And the open subgroup gives you a basis of neighborhoods for the identity. Okay? And once you have the basis of neighborhood for the identity, you translate just by G. So in some sense, this gives you that for finitely generated group, you can forget the topology. So the proof, I will not speak about the proof. It's very deep theorem. The proof applies the classification of finite simple group. And in some sense, what they need for the finite quotient, they need to have a bound on the length of the commutators. So you know what happens if you have a group, pi, then you can look to the maximal abelian subgroup, take the quotient, and then you come reduce to the case where your group is perfect. Then you will have to deal with commutator. For abelian subgroup, this result is easy. But then, when it's a perfect, then they need the classification of finite sample group to control the length of the commutator. And that's it's a one paper of, it's two papers, one in Annales Inventionnelles. And one corollary of that is to show that if you have this group, then, for example, the commutator group is closed.
There are some hats on the
Yeah, no, hat, oui, it has to be. Otherwise, it's. So they get some result like that. So we will use that to forget about the topology. And so one of the lemma will be the following. I will say perhaps A, B, two finitely generated. So I take residually finite groups. Here I will not need residually finite, but finitely generated certainly. Then the profinite completion are isomorphic abstractly as a group, if and only if A and B have the same set of finite quotient. And so the proof is just the following. You have to work a little more, but the idea of the proof is just the fact that if your group is finitely generated, you have what is called the characteristic subgroups, which is A over n. An is the intersection of all the subgroup in A. We can say even normal, and of index smaller or equal to n. So if it's finitely generated, I will have only finitely many of this subgroup. So the intersection is a subgroup, and it's a normal subgroup. Now, you know, I have a cofinal family of this subgroup. So I mean, I have an, which is in, an plus 1, which is in an, which is in pi, which is in A. And here you go, and you have that the intersection of the an, I will use residually finite, okay. So intersection is 1 to be, okay. And so what you show is if you have that, taking the inverse limit of the quotient by A over an will give you the profinite completion. So to define the profinite completion, you don't need to use all the finite index subgroup, but just a kind of a cofinal tower like that. So now you show that this is exactly the profinite completion of A. So there is things now, if you have the same set of subgroups of finite quotient, the same sets of finite quotient, this quotient is some sense is the one which will surject on all the finite quotient of cardinality smaller or equal to n. And this is the smallest one which surject on all finite quotients of A with cardinal smaller or equal to n. And that's the smallest one. So you can show that if you have the same set of finite quotients, you will have the same characteristic quotient. Does not show exactly that you have an isomorphism of the profinite completion. Then you have to show that, okay, you have a compatibility between A over n and B over n in some sense to get the isomorphism of this inverse limit. But that's exactly what happened. And so this corollary says that if you take J a finite group, then you have a bijection between AG and when they have the same profinite completion. So in some sense, two groups having the same profinite completion, when you look to finite representation in some group, for example, you can take G equal SLN FQ, linear representation. You have a bijection between this linear representation. And so that has been used in some sense to study the groups with the same profinite completion. So, okay, so this is what, so the corollary of what I said, now you have a dictionary between subgroup of pi and subgroup of the profinite completion. So it's a corollary. Let P a finitely generated and residually finite group. Okay. One, if I take gamma in pi, which is a finite index, or I call it K, which is a finite index, then I take the closure in And this will be also of finite index, which is the same as this one. And in fact, this will be the profinite completion of K. This was not clear, in fact, without this result. I mean, if you take the profinite completion of a non-finitely generated group, you have to be careful. You take a subgroup of finite index, its adherence is not always the profinite completion. It is here because
Gamma is equal to K?
Gamma, K. No, because it's gamma here. There is another gamma. Not good to change notation. So you have this, and you have the converse. So if you take H in the profinite completion, which is a finite index subgroup, then the intersection with P will be a finite index subgroup in pi with the same index. So. And if K is a normal subgroup, then the closure will be a normal subgroup. Okay, so that's you have really a dictionary which goes from one group to the other one. So now I want to speak about the profinite properties of groups. So let's see if I am looking. It's not this one. So GP will be the genus of P. Call it the genus of P, and this is the set of finite. So P is finitely generated and residually finite for the rest of the talk. So why is that? I will ask the question when two groups have the same profinite completion. A corollary of Nikolov-Segal theorem is the following. If I take the profinite completion of P, it's a profinite completion of P. So P and its profinite completion, they have the same profinite completion. But this profinite completion will never be finitely generated in some sense. Okay? So if you want to compare finitely generated and non-finitely generated groups, that's no hope to say something in some sense. So here I will take, and they call it the genus of P. It's all the finitely generated, residually finite. I will call it gamma, such that they have the same profinite completion. And Gp equal P, you say that P is profinitely rigid. So what group are profinitely rigid? So, and so the question in some sense is what groups are profinitely rigid? That's the first question. The second question will be, can be infinite?
What is known about this question
So they know that higher rank, I think they don't know at the moment. They know for some...
And they is like Lubotsky or...
Yeah, no, they don't know. So what I can say here, the answer is yes by Lubotsky. You can have infinitely many finitely generated residually finite group with the same profinite completion. Here, in some sense, what group are profinitely rigid? I will give you example of very simple group which are not profinitely rigid. Extension of Z by a cyclic group, for example, are not profinitely rigid. Okay, but what you can show is that it's just a lemma that if P is abelian, then GP is equal to P. Okay. So two abelian group, finitely generated, with the same finite quotient, they must be isomorphic. Okay. So why is that? Because you look to the free part, it's an abelian group. So two free abelian groups which have the same finite quotient must have the same rank. Okay, you just send to Z2. So if I take ZK and ZP, as P equals K. Okay. Because I just send Z to the K to Z2, I say to the K. I mean Z2, Z over 2Z to the K, okay. And this will appear there. So you can show in some sense that they must have the same rank, and then when you look to the torsion part, since they have the same finite quotient, the torsion part will appear too, okay. In fact, what you can show is another lemma, is that if then the abelianization are the same. They will have the same finite quotient, so they will have the same finite abelianization. But which seems amazing is that, what about free group? So the question about free group is one of the leading questions here. It's open. So it's a conjecture or question, yeah, which is due to Lennikov. So if I take Fn, a free group of rank n, then if has the same profinite completion, does it imply that if you show that P is free, it will be isomorphic to, it will have the same rank. But the problem is that the freeness is not known to be, at the moment, profinite properties in some sense. So let's quote some so another perhaps proposition. We can say something in some sense. You can say something if I say P is finitely generated, if the rank of P, that the minimal number of generators for P is smaller or equal to n, then this is true. So in some sense, what happened is, can you have a group which is generated by more than n elements, and which has the same profinite completion as P. So I will explain you why it's true when P has less generators than the free group, it comes from this proposition, which is due to Dixon, Formanek, Poland, and Rips. It was in 82. So when they stated the theorem, they were taking a continuous morphism because the theorem of Nikolov and Segal was not proved at the time. But now you can say, if I take AB, two finitely generated group, I assume that A is residually finite. Then, if they have the same profinite completion, any epimorphism from A to B is an isomorphism. So there is a property of group, you know, if a group is residually finite, this was this Hopf property, and you have an epimorphism from A to A, you know that it must be injective. That comes from the fact that the intersection of all the finite index subgroup is trivial. This is, in some sense, the generalization. So you need only to have the same finite quotient. If you take two groups with the same finite quotient, and if one is residually finite, any epimorphism like that will be an isomorphism. Okay? So the proof is just using the characteristic quotient. So I don't know if you want to see the proof or exercise. So, or I can do the proof, I mean. So, okay, I just explained the proof. So this implies that these characteristic subgroups are isomorphic, okay? That we said before. So now what you do, you have this phi from A to B, which is a surjection, and this induces something from A over AN, a surjection. But you know, we know that there are finite groups with the same cardinal. So this surjection must be an isomorphism. They have the same cardinality. So an epimorphism between two finite groups with the same cardinality is an isomorphism. So now I have this map which goes from A to A over.
What you wrote is A over AN is also to B over BN?
Yeah.
No, but
No, I take this epimorphism and I make the quotient by the characteristic subgroup.
but before that, the first line?
This is an epimorphism.
No, but before, above.
Ah, here, no, this implies. I say, oh, excuse me. The quotient are the same. I am sorry, the quotient are the same. So this characteristic subgroup will be isomorphic in some sense. But no, I cannot use that in some sense. I use they have the same cardinal. And then I go from this group A to AN, I go to B over Bn, and then I look to the, okay. I go to A to B and B to Bn, and I look to the kernel of this. The kernel of this will contain the kernel of that. And it will be in the intersection of all the AN. You know, in some sense, this, because of this isomorphism, the kernel of this map will be, it's like sending A to A over AN. And so the kernel of this map will be the AN. And so the kernel of this map is in the AN. And so it is in the intersection. It must be trivial. It's a little quick, perhaps. You have to do the things, but it gives you that. So in some sense, so the corollary here will be the corollary here will be that let's see, I want to say the corollary. So take a free group of rank n, P a finitely generated group. If the rank of P is smaller or equal to n, then if P is isomorphic to Fn, P is isomorphic. So having the same profinite completion will imply that it's a free group. Okay? So the rank here is the smallest number of generators. The second, if rank of P equals the rank of the Abelianisé of P. For example, this is true for a free group. This is true for a surface group. Okay? Then, if it has the same profinite completion as a free group, it must be isomorphic to a free group. Why is that? Because the profinite completion, as I said, says that they have the same Abelianization. And so pi will have the same rank as the free group. And so by this one, this is true. And now the corollary of that is that a surface group cannot have the same profinite completion as a free group, which is good in some sense, because surface group has a group which has perhaps nearest from a free group. And so if I take pi 1 S is a closed orientable surface, then pi 1 S is never isomorphic to pi 1. Okay. So at least you can say profinite completion, so the finite quotient will distinguish the free group to the surface group. And so that was a result. So, oula. Bon, on va laisser tomber ça. So now I would like to give some example. Just here is, for example, a question. When does the rank of a group equals the max of the rank of its finite quotient? of where K is normal in pi. So, cannot be true for all group, clearly, but it's true for the free group, it's true for the surface group. We don't know the answer for the fundamental group of a free manifold, for example. But it will say, so if it's true for a group pi, it means that the rank is a profinite invariant for this group, because you can get it from its a finite quotient. So that's true. That's true if pi is abelian. Pi has to be finitely generated and residually finite. Is free, is a surface group. Okay, but then there is certainly example where it's wrong, I mean. But this I don't have example in mind, but it must be wrong in many cases. And Hegel asks the same question for the fundamental group of a hyperbolic manifold. Can you get its rank from the finite quotient? So just to say non-profinite property, it may be, you have seen that being finitely generated is not a profinite property, because a group, the profinite completion of a group, you know, so being finitely generated is not a profinite property. We have seen that P hat is isomorphism to P hat, and this one will not be finitely generated. But being finitely presented is not also a profinite property. So this is due to Brightson and Reed in 2012. They find an example of two groups. One is finitely presented, the other is finitely generated, not finitely presentable, and they have the same profinite completion. So in some sense, so Lubotsky has extended this to this FP condition, but perhaps it's too complicated, but no of the FP condition, which are some cohomological finiteness condition, are profinite properties. Lubotsky also showed that being residually solvable means that, like residually finite, if you have a non-trivial element, it will survive in some solvable finite quotient. So being residually solvable, residually nilpotent, residually P, so when you use P group as quotient, it's not profinite property. Being centerless is not a profinite property. So in some sense, there is many properties which are not profinite property. And perhaps the peak of that was this theorem by Brightson and Grunwald. It was in 204 when they get a counterexample to a question by Grothendieck. So there exist pi1, pi2, two finitely generated residually finite group, such that pi1 will inject in pi2. You can think it is a subgroup of pi2 in some sense. And so I will say an injection. This injection extends to an isomorphic from the two profinite completion, and pi1 is not isomorphic to pi2. So this was a question of Grothendieck. If you have an injective homomorphism which extends to an isomorphism of the profinite completion, does it mean that, in fact, it is surjective? Does it mean that these two groups are isomorphic? No. They have an example which has been constructed using, I guess, some RIPS machinery. So it's not an obvious example at all. Okay? So, for example, if you ask the same question for, you can say that a group is Grothendieck rigid if whenever you look to a subgroup in some sense, then the profinite completion is never isomorphic. And free manifold groups, surface groups, are Grothendieck rigid, but not all the groups. So I will just finish with an explicit, perhaps, example of groups with the same profinite completion. It's this example given by this theorem of Bohm-Slag. It was here shown in if I take A and B finitely generated and residually finite group, then if A cross Z is isomorphic to B cross Z, then they have the same profinite completion. Which seems a little bizarre as a statement. And you can see that, for example, this forces the group to have a center. You know, if A and B have no center, if one has no center, then this isomorphism will say that A will be isomorphic to B. So they are kind of a special group. And so it's not too difficult to show that they have the same profinite completion. You have to show that they have the same finite quotient, and in fact the same, as I call, finite characteristic quotient. And so you look to the characteristic subgroup here, and you can show that in fact it will be the product of the characteristic group of this and the Z over NZ. It will be isomorphic. So in some sense what you can show is that AN okay, but then you have to be careful. Why it will imply that, for example, you have that, and then what you look to no, I say what I want to know. Excuse me. So I will say like that. The first exercise is to say that A this is isomorphic to A over AN. That you have to show. And more or less is because here you have the characteristic group will be A to the N cross, in some sense, NZ. Okay? But then when you have that, why this is isomorphic to this one? Then you have to use the result that when you have a finite group, you can factorize it in indecomposable finite group. And this factorization is unique. And what is important here, you get the factorization starting from any factorization. So you do this factorization and you see that this will appear in both sides. And so the remaining part will give you that and will be isomorphic to that. So here you have to use a result which is, you have a unique, this is Rimac, Krull, Schmidt. You have a unique, for a finite group, you have a unique direct product decomposition. And you can get it by refining a given product decomposition. So that will give you that. And now how to use that? Just a second. So just to give the examples. So we will use that what is a semi-direct product of Z with H, and this is given by this phi will be in the out automorphism group of H. And this is specified by the conjugacy class of phi in this. Okay. So this is the automorphism group modulo the inner automorphism group. Okay. So now the corollary of this theorem is that you take H like that. It's finitely generated and residually finite. And you take phi in out of H, which is of finite order. Phi to the n will be 1. So that means that phi to the n will be an interior automorphism. Okay. Then, if you take any element in Z which is prime to n, then you can show that this, I will call it, then the, phi Z is isomorphic to phi to the k, Z. And usually the two groups, when I take the semi-direct product with phi will not be the same as if I take the semi-direct product with psi. And the idea is just to cross with Z. The idea is just to show that this is isomorphic to because this you can this as H semi-direct phi identity Z cross Z. And you know, and this will be isomorphism to H why is that? Because now you have phi identity which act on Z cross Z, phi to a power k identity which act on Z cross Z, but you can use this identity because they are relatively prime to change the basis and to get the same action. Up to a change of the basis, you can get the same action. So you use that there exists UV, n plus vk equal 1. Don't forget that phi is of finite order in the automorphism group. So that's the way. So if you want an explicit example, you take A equals psi Z and B equals psi phi psi to the square z, and psi in the automorphism. This is given by psi x equals x to the 6. And then, so they are very simple group. And I guess these examples was known already by Serre, and more or less they correspond to a fundamental group of some algebraic curve, or something like that. He was knowing this example. So, so this is one construction. You have other construction which does not come from this one. For example, for the Soule manifold, the Soule group, that is when you have a semi-direct product, but here you have a Z cross Z. Then you can build examples which are not coming from this Bohmslag-Hirschhorn theorem, but then, you know, if you take, and I will stop there, if you take example like that, then you look phi in GL to Z, then it's possible to find two matrices which are not conjugated in GL2, but which are conjugated in all the GL2 Z over Zn. And if you have that, then the profinite completion of the group you get with these two matrices will be the same. Because this will give you this characteristic quotient. So this is interesting in some sense, you know. Being conjugated is not a profinite property for this automorphism. Perhaps I will stop here.
This example with the other automorphisms is related to three-manifold group?
So these are, yeah. So the question for free manifold group, so as we said, here it was a general question, a group, and you will compare to the profinite completion of all group. So here is a restricted problem. For example, you take the fundamental group, you take M1, M2, two closed orientable free manifolds, and you ask if they have the same profinite completion, what can I say? And so the conjecture will be, if I take closed orientable and I want that the fundamental group, so we know the fundamental group is residually finite by Perelman, but I want that I will say pi1 of M1. If I say aspherical, it's perhaps a notion which is, I want that the only non-trivial, I will say like that, homotopy group is the fundamental group, is pi1. Okay? So if I take the conjecture that will be, there exists a common finite covering. So there will be n what called commensurable. So it is known, so there are examples, you ask me, so from that you can build example of manifold like the manifold which has one of modeled on this geometry. So I mean you can build example of manifold which are a surface group, I will say S, a surface, and phi is periodic. So here I mean that I have a bundle over S1, of surface bundle over S1. I have a projection, and the fiber will be the surface. So you can build exactly this example by just taking this corollary. Because the fundamental group will be exactly the extension, like that. Okay? The theorem, which is non-trivial, is that they are the only example for the Seifert manifold. If you avoid this example, a Seifert manifold will be determined by its profinite completion, in some sense. They have showed that the profinite completion determines the geometry. So if I have a geometric manifold with one of the 8 geometry of Thurston, same profinite completion, same geometry, it will determine the GSG decomposition. So if I have 2 manifolds with the same profinite completion, they must have the same graph of GSG decomposition with the same geometry on the vertices. So now there is a paper which appears, which is it determines if the manifold is fibrate or not. So it seems to determine a lot of things, and in particular, all the examples you get here, they are commensurable. They are also examples of a Sol manifold, which be phi will be Anosov. The Sol manifold. You have examples, but they are commensurable, of manifold with the same profinite completion for the fundamental group. And now for graph manifolds, they have shown that there are examples of graph manifold where they are different with the same profinite completion, but they are commensurable. But we don't know any example of a hyperbolic manifold, and that's a question again of Long and Reed, whether in some sense the profinite completion of the fundamental group of a closed hyperbolic manifold will determine the group. This is, as usual, the hyperbolic case is the worst, the most difficult case, in some sense. For knots, for example, the profinite completion of the fundamental group of a knot determines the genus of the knot. It determines if it's fibrate. If a knot has the same profinite completion as the unknot, it's not difficult. It's the unknot because it's abelian, the fundamental group of the unknot. And you have only one knot with abelian fundamental group. But it has the same profinite completion as the torus knot, it's a torus knot. If it has the same profinite completion as the figure 8 knot, this emblematic knot, it is a figure 8 knot and so on. So it seems that in dimension 3 there is a lot of rigidity coming from the finite quotient, and one of the also deep problem is for hyperbolic manifold, does the volume a profinite invariant? So there is a volume conjecture which will imply that. There is a volume conjecture where the volume will be an asymptotic of the log of, you will take 1 over the degree of the finite cover, the log, and you take the torsion part of the homology. That seems a crazy conjecture, that you will get the volume from the torsion part of the H1 of the finite cover. But there has been an inequality which has been proved in one. And so if this is true, then the volume will be a profinite invariant. We can detect it from the finite quotient.
This conjecture is very recent, no?
So Luc told me that we made the conjecture in Toulouse in the 90s, but I cannot remember that. I don't believe that because I cannot remember. And it seems to be now a recent conjecture. So perhaps, I don't know, I can write the... Yeah. In fact, I guess it comes from the L2 torsion. So the conjecture is that for M hyperbolic, and vol M is finite, then the vol M will be, it has to have a constant, which are always for, I don't know if it's 6p, perhaps. Then the limit inf or limit sub, perhaps, or 1 over n, the log of the torsion. So it has to be the torsion of the H1 of this covering. And you look to all the finite cover. And so that will tell you that this is a profinite invariant. You know, if you have the same profinite group, you look to the induced covering for your manifold, between they have the same finite quotient, and this will have the same also profinite group. And it goes up. And so this is a profinite invariant. So in some sense, if it's true, so why is that? When I saw the conjecture, I was really surprised. So I don't believe, Luc, that we were talking about that in the 90s. I was really surprised because that seems very weak compared to the volume. But it seems, you know, this formula, you can compute the volume from what is called the L2 torsion. You have a Reidemeister torsion in the context of L2 geometry. And when you take the L2 Betti number, you can approximate it by the usual Betti number with a formula like that. So the L2 Betti number of manifold M is the limit of the Betti number of this over N, in some sense. And so they think that the right approximation for the L2 torsion will come from this log of the torsion of the H1 of the covering. That's the only explanation I can see, but equality I don't know, but this I know. This has been proved by Tangley. This has been proved by Tangley. So the volume is bigger than this limit. So in some sense, there is some possibility that it is true, but then it's something, in some sense, which we don't know. It will be good, I mean, if you suspect that your two manifold has not the same volume, then you can test the finite group. It's very difficult to decide if two hyperbolic manifolds have the same volume or not, especially if they have the same volume. There is no things which can tell you that they have the same volume. And if this is true, then you will have, and you are sure that they have not the same volume, then you will show it. Because you look to the finite quotient and at some point, they cannot have the same, you know. So that will be, from an algorithmic point of view, interesting. But it's completely... So there is a kind of interesting things coming in. But, you know, this is a studying manifold from the finite cover. We want to understand manifold from their finite cover in some sense.